What would you like to order, lovely lady? She opened the menu, stood there, and gazed at me. A bottle of red wine, 500 grams of barbecue, salad, and tomato juice. How much do I owe? She inquired. It's my treat, I responded with a grin. As I waited for my order, I reclined blissfully in my chair. How little does a man require to be content? Delicious food, a job he adores, and a compliant woman by his side. Yes, I said compliant. You heard me correctly. While I had no problems with the first two, the last one was evidently an issue. They brought my order, and I dug into the meat, sipping the wine and pondering all the tasty things I hadn't sampled yet. The meat was generously soaked in soda water, which would later make my liver tingle. The juice was shamelessly watered down, and the salad tasted like week-old sour cream. Well, what can you expect? The proprietors are Armenians. With all my sympathies for these folks, you should keep an axe behind your back when dealing with them. Only the bread was fresh, and thank heavens for that. Just a typical order at a typical cafe on the left bank of the Mississippi River. Having eaten my fill, I wiped my lips with a napkin, looked with regret at the remaining wine in the bottle, and rose from the table. Then I reconsidered and took the bottle with me. Hello there. This morning I decided to go to the countryside in my suit and tie. It was a balmy day in early autumn, with splendid weather. I drove out to a secluded beach and watched the seagulls circling above. My soul was ready to create. I took out a folding military shovel and an enormous, sharply honed axe with a long handle from under the seat. Then I removed my jacket and listened to the murmur of the waves. Their sounds mesmerized me. I turned the car towards the river and opened the trunk of the Mercedes. I peered into the eyes of the man lying inside. He was groaning and blinking, his eyes full of terror. My soul was soaring high in the sky. His hands were tied behind his back and handcuffed for good measure. I had misplaced the keys to them a couple months ago, but I didn't need them. I had no intention of letting the guy go. The bastard's ticket was one way only. I had been preparing for this moment for a long time and wanted to relish it. It was getting dark, around 9 p.m., just like that time a year ago. Now, let's go back exactly 1 year. Darling, what time are you getting off work today? Actually, I'll be staying late at work today. I need to go meet with someone. There's an opportunity to make some extra money before the holidays. Okay, I'll call you. With those words, I hung up the phone. We had been married for 5 years. Was I happy? You could say yes, almost. Did I love my wife? Yes, I did. We didn't have kids and I didn't know why. Was there any point in living life just for yourself? I think so. Or we could have adopted a child from an orphanage. Although they say there's no such thing as someone else's children. But, in my opinion, children should be your own. Who knows, though? I didn't cheat in my marriage. There was simply no need. Plus, the risk was quite serious. You could run into relatives on dating sites. The scandal that could erupt afterwards wouldn't be worth a fleeting fling with someone's rear end. The apartment greeted me with dark windows. Surprised by this, I took out my Nokia and started dialing my wife's number. It rang for a long time, but no one answered. Half an hour later, I called again. Still no answer, just long rings. An hour later, my phone rang. My wife's number appeared on the screen. Having prepared some choice curses, I pressed the answer button. However, instead of her voice, an unfamiliar female tenor sounded. "Hello? Who is this? Identify yourself immediately," I barked. Sometimes audacity pays off. "Irina Fedeva, nurse. And who are you?" After those words, I broke out in a cold sweat. Which hospital and department? My voice instantly lost its commanding tone and wheezed like a burnt-out steamship pipe. "Central City Hospital, neurosurgery, 8th floor," they replied. "Got it, I'm on my way." Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. At the hospital entrance, I crashed through the barrier. It just happened. I didn't mean to. The plastic bar bent into an arc, smacked me on the roof, and snapped back into place. Pulling up to the neurosurgery department, I kicked open the closed door and raced up the stairs. Here's the 8th floor. The door to the corridor was open. 2 women were walking through it, pushing an empty gurney in front of them. Medicine, I smirked to myself. Where the hell is the doctor's lounge? "Right this way, sir," a guy in green scrubs and a green cap said as we entered. "And who might you be?" He had the eyes of a man who was dead tired. "Mikhail Sobolev, Irina Sobolev's husband." My lawyer's ID flipped open in my hand like a viper's mouth. My wife, Irina, what happened to her? Poisoning or something? I couldn't imagine anything worse. A spark of understanding flashed in his eyes, and he glanced to the right. Please have a seat, he requested. Then, following his gaze, I saw a bag and a phone lying next to it. A switch flipped in my head. It became empty and quiet inside. The spring of rage was rapidly coiling. What happened to her? I heard my own voice as if from the side. Please sit down. The spring in my soul snapped open with a clang. Rage poured out. A pistol pulled from the shoulder holster, pointing at his head, while simultaneously covering the entrance to the office. To hell with everything. Talk or I'll kill you. A thought flashed through my mind that I should be more tolerant of people. Damn, I hate doctors. Why are they like this? She died, half an hour ago. His response was a small revenge for my hand squeezing his throat. I couldn't breathe and looked into his eyes. There was only deathly fatigue there. The world around me darkened and I felt the ground slipping from under my feet. He knocked me out with 5 words. I woke up on a hard couch in the doctor's lounge. The guy in the green uniform was waving a piece of cotton with an unpleasant smell under my nose. Seeing that I had opened my eyes, he guiltily turned his head away and brought me some water. She could have been saved earlier, but by the time she was brought to us, her brain was already dead. The doctor's cruel words reached me, as if from far away. The reeds rustled, the trees bent. You died because a small blood vessel burst in your brain. Passers-by found you 3 blocks from the hospital. A well-dressed woman thrashing in her death throes attracted attention. An old woman approached you and held your hand. You lay on the sidewalk for 2 hours until the ambulance arrived. You could have been saved if you had gotten to a doctor even a little earlier. For reasons quite understandable to me, the police closed the case. Death from natural causes was the forensic report's conclusion. Cerebral hemorrhage and nothing more. Well, that makes it easier. The pathologist sold me a full copy of the medical report. Cheap. 1 bottle of whiskey. Truth comes so cheap in our shitty state. And after the funeral, another unpleasant detail emerged. You had a lover and spent that evening with him. You had sex right before you died. A cerebral hemorrhage as a result of physical exertion. Not good. But who was he? A trip to see an old friend, a bottle of collectible hunting whiskey, a $500 advance, and an unofficial request for your phone records. Surveillance camera footage from the streets. SMS duplication, tracking incoming and outgoing messages, identifying the target. Here's what we have. Phone number, passport details, photo, copy of passport and vehicle registration, family, parents, children. He worked at a medical corporation, a manager. Drove a fancy Lexus. Wore a 150-gram gold bracelet on his wrist. A 300-gram chain of the same weave. The belly of a respectable man. The guy from the picture. Alexei Tarolsky, the dream of any woman over 30. Smelling of exquisite French cologne, wife and 2 kids. Met you online on a dating site. I hate the internet, that shitty dumpster. How many lives have been ruined through it? You started seeing each other and you dreamed of having a child. You didn't know he was married, and he didn't tell you. That day you met at a hotel on the left bank of the Mississippi. Although usually you met at rented apartments. There were cameras in the courtyard there too, by the way, and they were also working. During sex you felt ill, and your lover, after dressing you and putting you in the car, drove you to the city, dropping you off 5 blocks from the hospital. There was a working video camera in the bank building across the street. The number of his car was perfectly visible. After walking 2 blocks, you fell on the pavement and didn't get up again. There was a traffic camera there, 10 meters away. It pained me to see you dying, thrashing your legs on the asphalt. Before dropping you off, your lover cleared the memory of your phone and removed his number and text messages, covering his tracks. Yeah, only it won't help him now. Having driven away from the hospital, Alexei turned on his favorite dance music and headed home. Hi there. Today he got off work early. 2 chief doctors paid him in an envelope. 60,000 pleasantly warmed his pocket. Yesterday he met a charming 24-year-old blonde on the site and invited her to the left bank to sit in a cafe. Said he would pay for her taxi. He simply couldn't bear to look at his wife with black coarse hairs growing out of her chest. And she wouldn't give him a divorce. He would have married her if not for her father's money that allowed him to start his own business. He wondered if the blonde would take the bait or not. Turning onto the left bank, he drove towards the hunting lodge. There were 40 minutes left before meeting the girl. He didn't even notice the modest old Toyota following him. Accelerating to 55 miles per hour, he felt on top of the world, driving the powerful, obedient machine. And then the Lexus engine stalled. There was a smell of burnt insulation in the cabin. The Impulse 32R1 is an electromagnetic pulse generation device. Stalls any running internal combustion engine at a distance of up to 10 meters. A rare and very expensive thing. When the pulse hits a car, for example, all the electronics fail. I had a plan of action. I had to sit on the internet on the old site the day before. So, taking out the device, need to calculate where he will stop, so there are no buildings nearby. Damn, the wire from the cigarette lighter fell off. No time to screw it back on. There's only enough power for one shot. Look how he's racing. The bastard is changing trajectory on the road. If only I can graze him. Last shot and... got him! The Lexus slows down and veers to the right. Let's lag behind a bit and put on the brakes. Aha, he got out. Open the hood. Open it all you want, it won't help. He's probably trying to call now. Oh, he is calling. But the phone's not working either. It got disabled along with the Lexus. Your move, maestro. Good afternoon. Having problems? Let me help you. I'm an electrician at the local Lexus dealership. I had bought the Lexus service mechanics overalls with the inscription a week ago at the Classic Market. I went into the workshop with transfer stickers and they colored it in Lexus colors for me. Another $5. A nice badge with a photo. Someone else's stamps and name dangles on the cuff. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you. Yeah, it's stalled and won't start. Allow me to assist you. I drive a bit further, then back up almost to the Lexus's bumper, stopping slightly to the left. I take out a tester, probe the wires without understanding anything about them. The terminals are all insulated. I just pretend. I make meaningful noises, glancing sideways at the guy. He's trying to start his phone, takes out the battery and puts it back in, presses the power button. Useless. The phone is dead. Of course, an electromagnetic pulse is a terrible thing. Cars are rushing by. We're waiting. Here seems to be a window in the traffic flow. The road is clear for a couple minutes. I look at the wiring and, having twisted the connector plugs, I say, "See that red starter wire that came loose? That's the problem." "Where?" "Right there, look." The dude leans over his engine and I look around. No passing cars. The DVR on the Lexus is also disabled. There will be no traces. "Here you go, Alexei Turolsky. Sign here." I hit him on the back of the head with all my strength using a Chinese folding baton. I add a blow with his own hood for good measure, with all the breadth of the Slavic soul. He collapses like a sheaf right into my open trunk. We tie his hands and feet. Handcuffs here and there. Barely snap them on his feet, the fat boar. Need to wrap duct tape around his mouth. If only he doesn't start yelling and gnaw through the gag. I need to stuff a dirty rag, all covered in grease, in there as a gag. I have one like that in the trunk. The lid won't close. His head is in the way. The sound of an engine is heard somewhere in the distance. We slam the trunk lid on his head. Damn, he's so huge. It won't close. We hit him again. All good. It closed. No fingerprints, because I was working in gloves. We leave the man purse and all the valuables in the Lexus in plain sight. If some lowlife is tempted, it will be a false trail. No one will think of me. I push the buttons on the doors as if locking the car to take a leak. I'll throw away the ignition keys later. I drive away from the spot, pulling into the tree line. The road has been studied in advance. I change the license plates on the car. I cut the old ones into pieces with metal shears and bury them in a pre-dug hole in the ground. Aluminum decomposes quickly. The autumn rains will start soon. I drag the unconscious boar into the trunk of my Mercedes. Heavy bastard. I drive the Toyota to the nearest cafe. I put the keys under the wheel. My friend will pick up this little car in a couple hours. I return to the tree line and change into my usual strict suit. I'm kind of hungry. Need to eat. There's a Cossack farmstead barbecue place nearby, and I feel like some red wine. I'm a little frazzled today. "What would you like to order, pretty girl?" She opened the menu, stood there and looked at me. "A bottle of red wine, 500 grams of barbecue, salad, and tomato juice." "How much do I owe?" "It's on me," I replied with a smile. "And so I'm on the beach, almost the same spot where a year ago he slept with my wife. I'm digging a hole with a small folding shovel. It's kind of hard to dig. Why did I overeat?" I glance at Alexei. "So that's what you look like, Alexei boy." Eyes darting around, he's moaning. "Moan all you want, Alexei." Want a drink? He nods. I remove the gag. I stick half a bottle of unfinished red wine into his mouth. He drank it. A look of comprehension appears in his eyes. He watches the shoulder holster dangling under my arm as I keep digging the hole. Do you need money? He asks hopefully. No, Alexei, I don't need money. I shake my head. Then what do you need? Remember Irina Soboleva? I'm her husband. Well, ex-husband now, as you know. In his eyes, belated recognition is followed by a woeful look. I call that look the eyes of a shitting dog. He's already crying. Apparently he realized what awaits him. Soiled the air. The trendy white trousers with creases in the back began to fill with a brown color. Sharp smell. I shove the gag back in and secure it with fresh duct tape. He'll stink up my whole trunk, the animal. Not every time can a person calmly watch their grave being dug with a small shovel. You thought I forgot about you? I've been living only for this moment. You thought I wouldn't find you and you wouldn't croak? I'll cut you and cauterize the cut so you don't bleed out before I need you to. I'll douse you in gasoline and set you on fire. When you finish burning, I'll chop you into pieces with an axe. And here's an angle grinder powered from the cigarette lighter. I'll cut something off you with it. And what's left of you? I'll bury in the sand. And I'll do it not because you cheated on me, but because you killed her by not taking her to the hospital. Although for cheating, too. I held out my hand with a tablet, simultaneously pressing the play button. I was talking to him and was amazed myself at the calm tone. The hysteria was gone, leaving behind a sharp, gut-wrenching hatred. North Cemetery. I looked at the granite gravestone. My ex-wife's smiling face as a little girl looked back at me from it. And I stood there asking one question. What for?